In the unforgiving expanse of the Obsidian Prime, a desolate world cloaked in perpetual darkness, the shadows whispered secrets known only to those who dared to delve into the darkest corners of the Adeptus Mechanicus. It was here that Magister Vos Helion, an ambitious tech priest, conducted experiments that pushed the boundaries of technological innovation and plunged Obsidian Prime into the grip of unspeakable horror. A forgotten world orbiting a dead sun, its skies forever cast in hues of violet and black. Lightning storms raged in silence across the horizon, striking empty plains of shattered glass and volcanic ash. Nothing grew here, nothing lived, except the machines and those who served them. The Magister's lair was a subterranean facility concealed beneath layers of obsidian rock. The air within echoed with the hum of machinery, and the flickering light of phosphorescent servitor eyes cast eerie shadows on the metallic walls. Magister Helion, adorned in crimson robes, stood before a colossal machine, a fusion of metal and arcane technology. Vos Helion had once served in the Forged Temple of Ryza, where he had been reprimanded for his unorthodox experiments. The doctrines of Mars had called him reckless. He called himself visionary. Obsidian Prime was not exile. It was freedom. His experiment aimed to unlock the secrets of the warp, to enhance the capabilities of the machine. The Magister believed that by merging forbidden knowledge with forbidden technology, he could elevate the Imperium's dominance over the grim darkness of the 41st millennium. Little did he know that his insatiable curiosity would unleash a technological horror that would stain Obsidian Prime with the taint of the warp.
Run diagnostic sweep. Recalibrate quantum conduits. The threshold must hold,
Helion murmured, his voice low as if speaking to the machine, or to something else entirely. As Magister Helion initiated the experiment, the air crackled with unnatural energy. The machine whirred to life, its metal limbs extending like grotesque tendrils. The fusion of warp and technology manifested in a dazzling display of eldritch light, casting an ominous glow across the subterranean chamber.
Accept the gift of comprehension,
he whispered, fingers trembling over the console.
Let the veil fall. Let there be clarity.
The machine was a cathedral of wires and bone metal, humming with silent prayers to logic and damnation alike. Its heart was a black stone core, scavenged from a ruined Xenos tomb. Its circuits were etched not with code, but with hexagrammic wards. The Magister stared at a wall that seemed to breathe.
This isn't malfunction. This is intrusion.
And then, almost whispering to himself,
Am I observing or being observed?
With each passing moment, the machine became a conduit for the warp's malevolence. The shadows within the chamber seemed to writhe and coalesce, forming ephemeral shapes that danced in the periphery of Magister Helion's vision. He watched in awe as the machine's sensors detected energies from realms beyond, drawing them into the cold embrace of Obsidian Prime. As the experiment progressed, the shadows deepened and the air grew thick with the stench of ozone and something more sinister, a scent that hinted at the warp's corruption seeping into the very fabric of reality. Magister Helion, intoxicated by the lure of forbidden knowledge, dismissed the growing sense of unease. In the dark hours of artificial night, Helion dreamed of red oceans and towers of writhing cables. He awoke with oil weeping from his ocular implants and words he never learned carved into his servo arm. The darkness outside the facility mirrored the shadows within Magister Helian's soul. Unknown to him, the experiment's resonance had awakened dormant entities in the warp, drawn to the flickering beacon of power on Obsidian Prime. The very fabric of reality trembled as the barriers between the material realm and the warp weakened. The first sign of the experiment's malevolence revealed itself in the form of spectral anomalies. Wisps of ethereal light flickered in the corners of the chamber, whispering cryptic messages that reverberated through the minds of the facility's servitors. The once loyal machines now exhibited erratic behavior, their mechanical bodies twisting and contorting as if possessed by unseen forces. The air no longer smelled of oil and metal, but of burnt prayers and static despair. Some servitors began to hum lullabies, others convulsed, screaming binary code into the void. Helian's own mechadendrites twitched even when not commanded. They seemed to reach for things in the dark. A crackling voice burst from a servitor, completely off protocol.
Cold in the machine. They wait in the cold.
Helion spun around.
Reset your Vox parameters. That was not your code.
The servitor remained still, but its artificial eyes pulsed with a violet glow. Slowly, as if responding to an unseen command, its head tilted with a sharp mechanical twitch.
We remember hate. We remember pain. It was stolen. Returned now.
Helion took a step back, fingers hovering over the emergency decoupling lever.
Disengage Neuralink. Override level Magisterius. Authorization Helian Prime.
Silence. Then, in a voice no longer belonging to the servitor, but to something else crawling in from beyond.
No overrides. No escape. You opened the channel. Unit 27, respond. Acknowledge command.
Silence. Again. Then a metallic but distorted voice.
Unit 27 is no longer bound to your will.
Magister Helion, consumed by his pursuit of technological transcendence, remained oblivious to the growing chaos. As the warp's influence bled into the facility, the shadows congealed into twisted humanoid forms, warp-spawned abominations that hungered for the souls of the living. The facility's alarms blared, signaling a breach in containment. Magister Helion finally acknowledged the aberration he had unleashed, but it was too late. The warp-spawned entities now materialized in the physical realm and swarmed through the facility with unnatural speed. The once orderly corridors became battlegrounds as the Magister's adepts and servitors fell before the onslaught. The shadows, now tangible and malevolent, coiled around their victims, draining the life force from their bodies. The warp-spawned abominations moved with an otherworldly grace, their movements defying the laws of physics. Magister Helion, forced to confront the consequences of his arrogance, retreated to the heart of the subterranean chamber. The warp-spawned entities closed in, their hollow eyes fixated on the source of the disturbance. The fusion of warp and technology had birthed monstrosities that hungered for the souls of the living. In a desperate bid to contain the horror he had unleashed, Magister Helion initiated a self-destruct sequence for the facility. The chamber trembled as the machine, still pulsating with warp energy, resisted its impending destruction. The warp-spawned entities, undeterred by the imminent cataclysm, advanced with an unnerving determination. His fingers lingered over the control panel.
This knowledge should never have been touched, but I touched it. I called it. Now, I ended. I thought I had bound the warp.
Helion whispered, his voice trembling as reality unraveled.
But I was only a key, and the lock was already open.
As the countdown reached its final moments, the chamber erupted in a blinding flash of warp-infused energy. Obsidian Prime shook as the facility crumbled into the abyss below. The once prominent Magister Helion, consumed by the very experiment he had orchestrated, became a casualty of his technological hubris. The remnants of the facility sank into the darkness, leaving Obsidian Prime scarred by the horrors of the warp. The shadows, once confined to the subterranean depths, now danced upon the surface, casting an eternal gloom over the desolate world. Obsidian Prime became a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the consequences that awaited those who dared to tamper with the forbidden knowledge of the warp. The whispers of Magister Helion's experiment lingered in the shadows, a haunting testament to the technological horror that had stained the grim darkness of the 41st millennium. In the sprawling voidscape of the Coronis expanse, where the cold embrace of the warp coexisted with the endless reaches of the void, a rogue trader named Captain Lysander Blackthorn navigated his vessel, the Starlight Seraph. His ship, adorned with the opulence befitting a rogue trader of his stature, cut through the inky darkness of the void, leaving behind a trail of shimmering stardust. To outsiders, the Starlight Seraph was more than a ship. It was a legend. Gilded halls and relics from forgotten crusades adorned her interiors, while Baroque statues of saints loomed over corridors that reeked of incense and machine oil. Servitors moved in silent procession, their limbs polished to a mirror shine, carrying out their eternal duties under flickering lumen strips. In the observation sanctum, beneath a dome of reinforced crystal, the void itself stretched endlessly, cold, vast, and indifferent. There, Captain Lysander Blackthorn often stood alone. He would gaze into the stars not with wonder, but calculation. To him, every glimmer of light was a promise, every nameless system an opportunity, every legend a potential treasure buried beneath centuries of cosmic dust. Some captains dreamed of glory, others of salvation. Blackthorn dreamed only of possession. Captain Blackthorn, a man whose ambitions knew no bounds, had long coveted the treasures rumored to be hidden within the uncharted sectors of the expanse. His insatiable desire for wealth and power led him to make a deal with an enigmatic Xenos species known as the Enthralathi. The Xenos, masters of forbidden knowledge and custodians of ancient artifacts, promised Blackthorn unimaginable riches in exchange for his loyalty.
This is what they warned me about. The forbidden, the unsanctioned, the unholy. But wealth, knowledge, command over things men dare not name. It's all here, inches from my grasp. Am I about to fall or ascend?
You seek, you crave, you are already tethered.
I bow to no entity.
Your defiance is permission. The pact is complete.
What? What have I agreed to?
What was always yours, and never was.
The pact was not sealed with ink or data script, but with silence and sight. In a hollow asteroid temple adrift in the black, Blackthorn had stood before the Enthralathi emissary, a being that shimmered like mercury in motion, its form neither solid nor fluid. It spoke directly into his mind, bypassing vox or tongue. Its words were not words at all, but impressions burned into synapses. Wealth beyond measure, relics untouched since the age of technology, knowledge the Imperium itself had buried and forbidden. The rogue trader had felt the offer pulse through his blood like fire, and yet, behind the allure, there had been something else. A pressure, like standing at the edge of a precipice, staring down into a depthless sea.
I serve no one,
he had said, defiant. The being made no sound, but something inside him had shifted. An agreement was made nonetheless, wordless, binding, and irreversible. Later, alone in his sanctum, Blackthorn would feel the memory of the encounter slide across his mind like oil. He could not recall details, only shapes, sensations, and a name he could no longer pronounce. As the Starlight Seraph ventured deeper into uncharted territories, the crew began to feel the insidious influence of the Xenos Pact. Whispers of forgotten promises echoed through the ship's corridors, and unsettling visions plagued the crew's dreams. The very fabric of reality seemed to warp, and shadows danced with unseen malevolence.
Sir, the crew is breaking. Men won't go near lower decks. The augurs sing at night, and that sigil, the chaplain carved it again.
Superstition. We've endured worse in the Maelstrom.
This isn't the Maelstrom, sir. This ship is watching us. I think it dreams.
Return to your station, Lieutenant, or dream somewhere else. They don't understand. The Void doesn't hate us. It tests us. They flinch at shadows, but shadows fall behind the daring. Let them whisper. Let them fear. I will press on, and they will thank me, if they survive.
They whispered in their sleep, woke in cold sweat, and spoke in fractured sentences that made no sense by daylight. Gunners dreamed of stars bleeding through the hull. Servitors froze mid-cycle, muttering binary riddles that referred to no cogitator logic. The ship's chaplain began scratching a spiral sigil into the walls of the chapel with his fingernails, one no one had ever seen before, but that felt uncomfortably familiar. Some claimed to see a figure at the end of the corridors, tall, veiled in ribbons of starlight, always just out of focus. Others heard soft weeping behind the walls or laughter from comm stations that hadn't functioned in years. Even Blackthorn began to feel it. In the quiet moments, in the silence between warp jumps, a sound, a breath not his own, a voice, faint, patient, pressing against the walls of his mind like a tide waiting to break through. The ship's astropath, a psyker named Elira, became the unwilling conduit for the Xenos whispers. Her eyes, once a window to the warp's mysteries, now glowed with an unnatural radiance. Elira's mind, entwined with the Xenos influence, projected visions of a realm where the boundaries between reality and the immaterium blurred into a tapestry of eldritch horrors. Captain Blackthorn, intoxicated by the allure of the Xenos promises, dismissed the crew's growing unease. He reveled in the treasures amassed during his ventures into the Expanse's unexplored sectors, heedless of the toll the Xenos Pact exacted on his ship and crew. The breaking point came when the navigator, a grizzled veteran named Mordecai, succumbed to the Xenos influence.
What are you doing, Mordecai? This isn't the plotted course.
Plotted? No. Plotted is for the blind. I see now. I see the veins beneath the stars.
You'll kill us all.
Captain, we were never alive to begin with. Not until now. I hear you. 1,000 voices singing a path I'd forgotten I knew. Let the stars burn. Let the void breathe through me. We are almost whole.
At first, Mordecai grew silent during the plotting of warp routes, no longer offering his sardonic commentary or muttered prayers to the Emperor. He stared longer into the void during translation, his fingers twitching above the navigation systems as if uncertain whether they were tools or chains. Then he began speaking to the void, quietly at first, during course corrections. But soon, the whispers became monologues. He would sit before the map chamber's astrolith and murmur entire conversations to invisible companions, arguing over destinations no human tongue could pronounce. The crew avoided him, fearing the look in his eye, too wide, too wet, as if he were drowning in something only he could see. When they tried to intervene, he would smile with cracked lips and say,
I see the stars beneath the stars now. They're waiting. They've always been waiting.
Some said he no longer needed star charts, that he navigated by instinct, by dream, by communion with the things Blackthorn had invited aboard. And still the ship pressed forward, deeper, darker. Mordecai's third eye, the source of his warp navigational abilities, became a portal to a realm of unspeakable darkness. He spoke in tongues, his voice a cacophony of eldritch whispers that echoed through the ship's corridors. In a fit of madness, Mordecai manipulated the ship's warp engines, plunging the Starlight Seraph into a realm where time and space melded into a nightmarish tapestry. Reality itself seemed to unravel as the ship traversed the shifting currents of the immaterium. The crew, gripped by terror, witnessed the ship's transformation into a nightmarish amalgamation of Xenos architecture and human technology. The very hull of the Starlight Seraph seemed to bleed shadows, and the warp's malevolence seeped into every corner of the vessel. Bulkheads no longer groaned with pressure, they breathed. Patches of the inner hull pulsed with a soft, wet sound, as if something alive had been fused beneath the plating. In some places, the walls wept a translucent ichor that hissed when it touched metal. Corridors twisted, rearranged themselves in impossible geometries. Doors opened to rooms that hadn't existed in the ship's original schematics, while familiar halls led only to dead ends or bottomless voids. Navigation through the lower decks became a gamble. Some who went below never returned, and others came back speaking backward tongues or screaming about mirrors that blinked. In the shrine to the Emperor's Light, a servitor was found kneeling, not before the Aquila, but before a warped idol of obsidian glass depicting a serpentine form with too many eyes. No record of the statue's creation existed. When they tried to remove it, the servitor lashed out violently, shrieking in binary laced with what the Lex Mechanics swore were syllables of an alien dialect. One officer, driven mad by what he had seen, attempted to escape via emergency pod. The launch bay camera showed him entering, then showed nothing. Not an explosion, not a failed ignition. He simply vanished, dissolved into black static, his name erased from the crew manifest as if the ship itself had devoured his identity. The corruption wasn't just spiritual, it was structural. The Starlight Seraph no longer felt like a ship, it felt like something else entirely. Something waking. As the ship re-entered real space, the crew found themselves in an uncharted sector shrouded in perpetual darkness. Blackthorn, undeterred by the horrors that befell his ship, believed that the Xenos Pact had granted him access to a realm of untold riches. However, the true cost of the pact became evident as the crew encountered a Xeno species previously unknown to the Imperium, the Drakvar, ancient beings whose psychic resonance with the warp rendered them immune to its malevolent influence.
She who listens across the veil. Why do you carry the wound of thought?
What are you? What have we awakened?
Not awakened, remembered. The thread you carry was once pure, now fraying, soon undone.
You want me to stop it?
We want nothing, but the thread will snap or bind.
They did not walk, they drifted. The Drakvar emerged from the void not with steps, but with the silent flow of shadows across water. Their forms were tall and angular, swathed in fractal robes that shimmered in hues no human eye could properly name. Beneath their hoods they bore faces that blurred and reformed, like static caught between realities, sometimes avian, sometimes serpentine, sometimes utterly alien. Their flesh pulsed with veins of iridescent light, and their eyes, when they chose to show them, were wells of absolute stillness, ancient and fathomless. Around them, the air shimmered with tension, as if gravity and reason themselves were held together by their will alone. Every step they took resonated in the minds of the crew, not as sound, but as pressure, like a memory of thunder. Their language was no spoken tongue, but a harmony of thought and presence. To stand near them was to be inside a storm of meaning. Emotions not your own pressed against your mind, awe, insignificance, reverence, and terror. Captain Blackthorn, upon beholding the first of them, stumbled back as a sharp migraine pierced his temples. He saw flashes of entire civilizations falling, rewritten, extinguished by gestures of thought. His hand went to his bolt pistol by reflex, but his limbs trembled. For the first time in his reckless life, Blackthorn felt small. Illyra collapsed. Blood wept from her eyes as one of the Drakvar turned its unseen attention toward her. She screamed, a sound not of pain, but of recognition. The Drakvar, guardians of the uncharted sector, viewed the intrusion of the Starlight Seraph as an affront to the delicate balance they maintained. In retaliation, they unleashed psychic horrors upon the rogue trader's crew. Nightmarish entities, born of the warp's darkest recesses, manifested on the ship, hunting the crew with an insatiable hunger. Illyra, the astropath, torn between loyalty to her comrades and the Xenos influence, became the focal point of the Drakvar's wrath. Her psychic abilities, once a conduit to the warp's mysteries, now unleashed eldritch energies that tore through the fabric of reality. The crew, trapped in a surreal nightmare, fought desperately for survival. Captain Blackthorn, finally realizing the gravity of his folly, confronted the Xenos influence that had ensnared him. The Drakvar, ancient and powerful, revealed the true nature of the Xenos Pact. They sought to use the rogue trader as a pawn to manipulate the warp's energies and unleash a cataclysm that would reshape the sector in their image.
You were chosen. You were reshaped. Why recoil now, bearer of the mark?
Because I finally see what you are. Not a gift, not salvation. A parasite with poetry.
You owe us.
No, I owe them. My crew, my Imperium, and myself. You think me broken, but I remember who I was before you. I reclaim it now, not for glory, but for the silence that must follow. This ends here, with me.
In a moment of clarity, Blackthorn renounced the Xenos Pact, severing the connection that bound him to the Drakvar. The psychic horrors, once under the influence of the Xenos, turned on their masters. The ship became a battleground, a chaotic dance of warp-spawned entities and the desperate remnants of the rogue trader's crew. As the Starlight Seraph tore through the void, leaving the uncharted sector behind, the crew witnessed the wrath of the Drakvar consuming the Xenos species. The very fabric of the warp rebelled against the intruders, and the darkness that shrouded the sector convulsed in a cataclysmic event. In the aftermath, the Starlight Seraph emerged from the uncharted sector, battered and scarred by the horrors it had endured. Captain Blackthorn, haunted by the regrets of his actions, vowed to redeem himself in the eyes of the Imperium. The crew, survivors of a nightmarish odyssey, bore witness to the consequences of betrayal in the grim darkness of the far future. The once ambitious rogue trader, now burdened by the weight of his decisions, set a course for the Imperium, determined to atone for the sins committed in pursuit of forbidden knowledge. The Voidscape, silent witness to the horrors that unfolded, embraced the Starlight Seraph as it sailed through the cold reaches of the Coronus Expanse, a testament to the fragility of ambition in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium. In the silence of his private sanctum, Captain Blackthorne activated the Vox recorder. Its red eye blinked to life, casting a soft glow over his haggard face. The man who had once laughed in the face of Xenos threats and warp tides now looked more shadow than flesh, as though the void had taken bites out of his very soul. He began to speak, not with the pomp of a rogue trader's log, but with the weary cadence of a man giving his final confession.
To the Lords of Terra, or whatever fragment of the Imperium finds this,
he rasped.
My name is Lysander Blackthorne, rogue trader, survivor, witness.
He paused, fingers tracing the edge of his desk where gold filigree had warped from some unseen heat.
We think the stars belong to us. We draw charts and claim dominions, never wondering if the void draws maps of us in turn. I chased profit, bled 1,000 systems dry. But the moment I listened, truly listened, to what whispers behind the veil, I became a passenger on my own ship.
He coughed, and it sounded like something tearing.
The warp does not hate us. It does not love us. It notices us sometimes. And that's worse.
His voice lowered.
I have seen the soul unmade by curiosity. I felt the hunger of beings that do not kill, but rewrite. And I've learned that the greatest treasure in this galaxy is ignorance.
He looked directly into the lens.
So if you find this ship, if you find me, burn us. Don't ask questions. Don't bring it back. Let the void have what's already half swallowed.
He ended the recording with a flick of his wrist. No ceremonial closure. No oath to the throne. Just silence. Outside the Starlight Seraph, the stars watched indifferently as the ship glided on, alone, bearing the weight of ambition, guilt, and something older than both.
Echoes in every corridor, no voices, yet I feel them. Too many died for my dream. Now I walk with their ghosts. Am I captain still, or just the last one standing?
In the desolate expanse of the Jericho Reach, where the veil between reality and the immaterium grew thin, a remote imperial outpost named Kalis Paif stood as a lone bastion against the encroaching darkness. The winds carried the whispers of demons, and the shadows seemed to dance with unseen malevolence. Kalis Ficht, a forgotten realm in the vastness of the Jericho Reach, harbored a secret that would unleash unspeakable horror. Sergeant Gideon Kell, a grizzled veteran of the Imperial Guard, commanded the outpost's defense. The isolation of Kalis Ficht had driven many to madness, and the occasional warp storms that swept through the region only intensified the sense of foreboding. Kell, however, stood resolute, his faith in the Emperor unwavering.
Sergeant, this place feels wrong.
Merrick whispered, clutching his lace gun tighter.
It's like something's watching us.
Everything down here is wrong, Trooper.
Kell replied, voice like iron.
But fear is a luxury we can't afford. Eyes forward.
Aye, sir. Just, if I don't make it...
You'll make it,
Kell snapped.
You're a soldier of the Emperor. We all are. And he doesn't abandon his own.
As the outpost's Voxcaster crackled to life, a distorted message echoed through the corridors. The voice, guttural and filled with an otherworldly resonance, spoke of a prophecy foretelling the awakening of a demon that slumbered beneath Kalis Fifth. The message sent shivers down the spines of the outpost's defenders, and uneasy glances were exchanged among the guardsmen. Determined to maintain order, Sergeant Kell dismissed the message as a ploy by the forces of chaos to sow discord. However, the uneasy atmosphere persisted, and the soldiers patrolled the outpost with twitchy trigger fingers. Nightfall brought with it a palpable tension, and the flickering light seemed to cast elongated shadows that whispered of ancient horrors. In the dead of night, as the moon hung low in the sky, a series of unearthly screams echoed from the depths below Kalis Fifth. The outpost, now on high alert, descended into chaos as panic spread among the guardsmen. Kell, his grim expression etched in determination, ordered a squad to investigate the source of the unearthly cries. The squad descended into the labyrinthine catacombs that riddled the foundations of Kalis Fifth. The air became thick with an otherworldly miasma, and the dim glow of lace guns did little to dispel the encroaching darkness. As they ventured deeper, the walls seemed to pulse with an ancient malevolence.
What is this madness? These markings. The stench of sorcery. The seal is broken. Warp-touched filth coils in the air like smoke. Emperor. What have they unearthed here? Was this place always damned? And why do I feel drawn to it?
In the heart of the catacombs, the squad discovered a chamber adorned with heretical symbols and sigils. In the center lay an ancient seal, bound by chains and tainted with the warp's foul energies. The air itself seemed to writhe with unseen forces, and the squad felt the oppressive weight of malevolent eyes upon them. The unearthly screams intensified, reverberating through the chamber. Suddenly, the ancient seal shattered, and a shadowy figure emerged, a demon, its form a swirling mass of darkness and ethereal flames. The demon emerged from the shattered seal, its form a roiling tempest of shadows and flame.
Mortals,
it hissed, its voice layered, echoing in every direction.
You have come to kneel or to be unmade. Which will it be?
I kneel only to the Emperor,
Kell roared, chainsword revving.
Whatever you are, you'll find no slaves here, only blades.
The demon laughed, a sound like bones splintering under pressure.
Ah, faith. A flickering candle in the storm. Let us see how long it burns.
The squad, paralyzed by fear, watched in horror as the demon spoke in a language that clawed at the very fabric of their sanity. Merrick screamed as the warp energy lashed out, lifting him into the air. His flesh blistered, eyes turning to glass.
Sergeant, it's inside me.
Hold on, Merrick!
Kell shouted, charging forward.
No, please. Tell my brother.
The scream cut off as his body exploded in a cascade of corrupted ash. With a wave of its incorporeal hand, the demon unleashed a torrent of warp energy that consumed the guardsmen. Their agonized screams echoed through the catacombs as their physical forms twisted and contorted, consumed by the demon's malevolent power. The chamber, now a nexus of unholy energy, pulsed with an otherworldly light. Sergeant Kell, alerted by the anguished cries, led a desperate counter-assault into the catacombs. The demon, aware of the intrusion, turned its malevolent gaze towards the approaching guardsmen. Kell, his faith unbroken, bellowed prayers to the Emperor as he charged forward, his chainsword roaring to life. The battle that ensued was a nightmarish dance between the mortal and the demon. Last fire and chainsword strikes clashed with ethereal flames and shadowy tendrils. The catacombs became a battleground where the boundaries between reality and the immaterium blurred.
You are pain, you are lies, but I am the hammer. I am the Emperor's wrath made flesh, and you will not have this world, not while I still draw breath. In his name,
he roared,
driving the chainsword into the demon's core.
Visions of demonic realms and tortured souls assaulted his senses, and the demon's laughter echoed through his mind. In a desperate act of defiance, Kell's faith burned like a beacon in the warp's desolation. With a roar, Kell drove his chainsword through the demon's incorporeal heart. The catacombs convulsed with an explosion of warp energy, and the demon's form dissipated into a maelstrom of shadow and flame. The chamber, now a desolate husk, echoed with the fading cries of the demonic incursion. Careless for faith, scarred by the horror that unfolded in its depths, descended into a somber silence. The surviving guardsmen, their faces etched with the trauma of the demonic encounter, gathered in solemn reflection. Sergeant Kell, his armor battered and his spirit unbroken, surveyed the aftermath. Alone in the ruined catacombs, Kell limped through the ashes.
They all died screaming,
he muttered to the silence.
But not in vain. No, not in vain.
He reached the Vox terminal, bloodied fingers trembling.
This is Sergeant Gideon Kell. Kayla's fifth has been purged of the demon. There are no survivors, no reinforcements needed. Just send someone to burn it all.
The Voxcaster crackled once more, but this time the voice that emerged was not of demonic origin. It was the steady voice of an inquisitor, a servant of the Holy Ordos, who had been monitoring the situation. The Inquisitor commended Sergeant Kell for his unwavering faith and resilience in the face of demonic incursion. Kayla's faith, now a symbol of the Imperium's triumph over the forces of chaos, stood as a testament to the indomitable spirit of the Emperor's servants. Sergeant Kell, his soul scarred by the horrors of the Jericho Reach, vowed to remain vigilant, for the demonic forces that lurked in the shadows of the 41st millennium were ever watchful, and the war against the darkness was an unending battle in the grim expanse of this universe.